NSW, what was your worst one night stand experience? Went home with a random girl, did our thing, went to sleep like normal. I woke up at 7 AM and tried to get her up. She starts to stir, then has a full-on seizure right on my bed. She was out of it for a good while afterwards, but luckily, my co-worker gets seizures, so I knew what to do. Unfortunately, since I knew nothing about her medical history, I had to call her mom to see if she'd ever had a seizure before. It turns out she hadn't, so I had to take her to the local hospital where I had to explain, in front of her parents and her sister, that, no, I'm not her boyfriend, no, she couldn't dress herself, etc. The worst part, though, was when I was leaving. While she was all out of it, she had told me her dad's name was Jack, so I called him Jack all morning. Turns out his name was Zach. So Jack, I was banging your daughter, my name is Zach. For God's sake Jack, don't interrupt me in the middle of a story. Brought her home but she didn't want sex but she wanted to grind while making out. Ended up with fabric burns on my dong and she stole my shorts. They were my favorite shorts. My friend dated a girl once who wouldn't have sex, but would grind against him so hard it left him with burns on his dong. Whenever she would call I'd start singing the theme song to Rawhide. Hooked up with an attractive muscular tattooed gent. We were both drunk and I don't remember much about the sex. Woke up wet the next morning, thought we were just sweating. Turns out he was so drunk he had peed the bed. We sort of knew each other previous to the hookup, so I just laughed it off. Tried not to make him feel bad. The only thing that had happened was it had soaked the feather top. A year later we hook up again, drunk. I had my reservations. Perhaps he pisses the bed every time he gets too drunk. 6 hours later I find out that reservations are correct. As a guy who spent years getting drunk regularly, I am always surprised at how common these got drunk, pee the bed stories are. People need to either handle their alcohol or control their bladders. So I go home with this random girl, woke up at her place in the morning, bed empty, so I got dressed, and was going home. When I get into the kitchen, her mother was sitting at the table with a kid, greets me with hey, Emma had to go to work, she told me you were still asleep, want breakfast. I kinda panicked and got out, just to find out I had no idea where I was. Mother comes after and asks if I need a lift somewhere. I gave up and had a really strange ride back to the tram. That was your chance to hook up with the older model. Alright 6. We went to sleep, woke up early but she was already gone. Found out she clogged my toilet sometime during the night and bolted. Moments before penetration I found out she was 2 months pregnant and told me to see inside of her. I'm well aware of anatomy, but in my drunk state of mind I felt like I was gonna release into a fetus, so I was laughing. Anyways, fast forward an hour later she quietly threw up a little bit while during doggy style but let me finish and didn't tell me. I immediately plopped down and landed neck first into her puke. I left shortly after and she tried to give me a kiss without having brushed her teeth yet. I politely declined and walked a mile back to my car. Whoa dude, this is probably one of the trashiest one night stand stories I've ever read. I had just broken up with my boyfriend and went to the bar with some friends to cheer me up. Despite it being a Wednesday and I had an exam at 8 AM the next morning, I don't think we intended to get S-faced. Anyway, I end up going home with some guy. I vaguely remember mediocre sex with a condom. Thank God. But the next morning, I wake up in his bed. He's face down in the pillow so I can't see him. I'm naked. My mouth tastes like Windex or something. I frantically try to find all of my clothes, my purse, my car keys, and get out without waking him or any roommates he had. I ended up running up Main Street to where I parked my car the night before, only to realize 2 things. I forgot my keys at his apartment, and my freaking car got towed. Oh, and I only had half an hour to get to campus for my test. Ended up hungover jog of shaming to class just in time. I got a C. Luckily, I had a spare car key at my place and got my car back. $150, I might add. And that weekend some guy I swear I never saw before slyly came up to me and handed me my keys and said, I think these are yours. And I think you peed in our kitchen. I don't think we intended to get S-faced. Funny how those always end up being the best nights. Or at least with the best stories. I had sex with a guy dressed as a pumpkin at a Halloween party. Unbeknownst to me, while we made out, his orange face paint smeared all over my face and totally ruined my Glinda, the Good Witch makeup and dress that I had spent weeks sewing. I don't know if he used orange shoe polish on his face, or what, but that stuff would not come off, no matter how much soap I used. Ugliest walk of shame ever. She peed the bed. We banged then fell asleep. I woke up around 7 AM. to someone spraying air freshener on my sheets. I pretended I was asleep as she got a towel and tried to sop up her urine. This went on for about 15 minutes. She then got back in bed and she too pretended to sleep, in her urine mind you, till I woke up. I hastily told her she had to leave after I actually processed what had just happened. Personally, if I peed the bed I would have just left, so at least she got one of your towels all full of pee too. I went on a date with this guy, let's call him Randall, back in 2006 or so. It was a pretty terrible date, but he was cute and I hadn't been laid in a while, so I accepted an invite back to his place. When we walked in, I was knocked back by the stench. Turns out he had an untrained Dalmatian that pee and crap wherever it pleased, including in a pile of Randall's dirty laundry. Randall hadn't cleaned it up in a few days. Probably should have called it quits then, but again, he was cute. We had some clumsy, unsatisfying sex on his air mattress next to the pile of pee-soaked clothes, and then tried to fall asleep together. I think I gave it a good 20 minutes before I began to wonder if the pee fumes would pickle my brain, then made some excuse and escaped. I think we're still Facebook friends. The last line is the best part of this. Bad sex. Then a crying, weeping conversation about her father. I cannot ever remember wanting to be somewhere else so badly. It was horrid. It's okay, man. You probably needed a good cry. Weird that you had such strong feelings about her father, though. Buddy came back from Taiwan after a year doing ESL. We had a big party to celebrate and it turned into a competition of who could drink the most Jaeger. I walked halfway home off campus before realizing I wasn't gonna make it, so I rang the doorbell of a girl I knew and passed out under her coffee table. Woke up naked in her bed the next morning and my dong looked like I fricked a cheese grater. College years. Completely crap-faced off old Milwaukee's beast. Meet 7/10 at a frat party. Small talk leads to flirting, leads to her inviting me back to her dorm. Around this time, all the crappy cheap BS starts to wreak havoc on my guts. I'm trying to let out all the farts I can as quietly as I can as we walk to her dorm. We arrive and sexy times ensue. She playfully tries putting a digit in my butt. I say something like, "Whoa, I ain't into that, honey." We continue with drunken sexy times. A few minutes later she tries again. Hey, I freaking said I wasn't into that. Knock that crap off, semi-awkward moment. But drunken sexy times continue. A few minutes later, she tries again and succeeds in shoving a whole finger in my beehole. Beer shoots explode out of my butt in a violent discharge of mostly liquid, hot frothy fesses. Liquid crap on the walls, on the bed, on the sheets and all over her hand. She has a look of sheer terror and shock on her face as I pull out and she sits upright. Drunken me, more pee off than anything, angrily stands up and says, "See what you frickin' did," takes clean part of bedsheets and wipes my butt, gets dressed and walks out without another word. One last glance as I leave has 7/10 still frozen in what can only be described as a mask of fear, shock, revulsion. TLDR. Chick puts a finger in my butt, mid-coitus, explosive diarrhea everywhere. Well, you told her not to do that twice. She gets what she gets in that situation. Maybe she learned a little lesson about respecting boundaries. Slept with a girl who was slightly tighter than anticipated, but eventually we were going for it and had a great time. Wake up the next morning and my entire crotch and upper thighs are covered in blood. Place looks like a murder scene. Sheets look like an Italian vineyard. And we're both still smashed. Oh, and it wasn't my bed. Took 3 showers to remove the red from places. Let me dig deep into my past. Once I met up with a chick from the chat line. We were both kind of young but I was frisky and dumb. I arrive outside her apartment and go up to meet her. We had talked about hooking up on the phone and she invited me over on a late night. She said that her mom was home but was going to sleep. When I get there she is not what I had imagined. She had a really short boy haircut. Not in a cute way mind you. She also wasn't that voluminous so it made her look more like a boy. She also came across as white trashy but that had never stopped me before. As a young man without that much sexual experience I'm kinda up in the air on this. I don't want to seem rude so I stay and hang out a bit. It gets more awkward from here. She decided to put on a movie for us to watch. Never Been Kissed with Drew Barrymore. I had never seen it so I figure I'll at least get to see a movie out of this. Her mom was a larger woman and was sleeping on the couch on the other side of the living room. This girl then gets a blanket and has us lie on the couch and spoon while the movie is on. It's kinda uncomfortable but I guess the mom must have been passed out on several Norcos or something. So this girl starts to give me a handy under the blankets. At one point her mom wakes up but doesn't say anything about what we're doing. Mom passes out again and the movie reaches its end. At this point I'm frisky. It's only us. And no one has to know I'm about to bang this tomboy. We move to the floor where she lays out a blanket and pillow. This is a small apartment so it's not like there was a whole lot of room. There is a coffee table within her mom's line of sight. But our heads would still be visible from where the mom was lying. I decided I'm just going to go as fast as I can and bounce. It got more uncomfortable because as I'm blowing her slowly, she is watching her mom the whole time. As a heavy-set woman she had a low-yield snore. At one point it sounded like she was waking up and she quickly pushed me off of her. False alarm. I then slip it into her from behind. I am now looking at her sleeping mom. I close my eyes. Think of any other hot chick I may have been fantasizing over at the time. I grab what little titchy AHD to offer and like a champ I manage to climax. I got dressed and made a quick exit. She walked me to my car and asked if I would call her again. I gave her an empty assurance and drove away never to see her again. TLDR. Banged a tomboy on the living room floor while a beast mom slept on the couch. I went over to her FWB place to hook up after she texted me and said she was lonely. I took a bunch of Adderall that day and was fueled by amphetamine as I arrived. On the drive there I was so excited to spend hours freaking. When I arrived we hung out, watched a movie, and snuggled closely on the couch. Just 3 weeks prior to this night my girlfriend moved back home to Europe across the world and we both assumed we'd never meet each other again, so I was feeling lonely and in need of comfort. When I looked at the girl next to me on the couch I couldn't think of anyone else but my girlfriend who left just weeks prior. I couldn't touch her which I managed to do so effortlessly many times before. We transitioned from the couch after the movie finished to her bed. There she was showing me pee on her phone, turning me on slightly, and she was wearing these really tight spandex shorts which rode up her butt which swallowed the material. She asked for a back rub and I obliged by gently massaging her lower back and slowly working my down to her butt as I snuck my fingers underneath her underwear. She didn't stop me, she wanted it. After 5 minutes of rubbing her butt I barely had any more circulation in my dong than before. The Adderall coupled with the image of my girlfriend across the world kept my dong soft. Eventually, after an hour of chatting on the bed about sex and other random topics she drifted off to sleep. There I lay for about 3 hours, eyes bugged out from the extended release Adderall. 6 AM rolled around and it began to get light out. I leaned over to the girl and kissed her gently and fabricated a lie that I needed to be at home. I drove home, called the girl halfway across the world, and broke down. Worst experience ever. Not me but my roommate in the dorms was giving head in our room. I was in the living room, while drunk and she must have been deep throating or something cause he hit her gag reflex hard and she puked all over his dong. He freaked out and stormed out yelling down the hallway. Never saw him again. She thought it was hilarious. She brought out the grapefruit. I was 18 and at some band's after party. This guy there was pretty cute and we talked for a while and started getting drunk and flirty. We ended up going to the bedroom and had sex. As soon as it was over he said don't tell anyone, because I'm talking to this girl and I don't want her to find out. I said whatever, and laid down to go to sleep. He keeps sitting on the end of the bed and out of nowhere he says I was a virgin. I just didn't even say anything. He stands up and starts acting really weird and starts going through the closet in this room. I asked what he was doing and he said seeing if there's any P magazines. He then leaves the room. and one of my friends comes in shortly after. I said, "Can you sleep in here?" Because I had sex with that guy and now he's acting like a psychopath. So her and her boyfriend come in there, and so does another guy. We were all crammed in the bed. The weirdo comes back in there and is like, "Well, where am I gonna sleep?" We told him he could go to one of the other rooms or to a couch downstairs. He kept saying he wants to sleep in that bed. He leaves the room and we locked the door. After a few minutes we hear a knock and it's our friend and her boyfriend. We let them in and she said that the weirdo was downstairs and kept flipping light switches and asking if there was any pee anywhere while digging through drawers. He ended up picking the lock and coming in the room after we refused to let him in. Got out of there as soon as I was sober. That guy is insane. I fell asleep in mid-muff dive. Apparently she did too. I woke up at 5 AM and jerked my face away so fast I gave her a partial Brazilian. We laughed and had cereal. You are a poet. First, after reading all of these, I'm happily not on the list yet. Now on to mine. 1. A girl I worked with invited me over at 2 in the morning after her and her boyfriend had broken up. After what was the absolute worst sex I've ever had. She starfished the whole time. She informed me that they hadn't broken up. They had only gotten into a fight and that I should probably leave. She then informed a bunch of our co-workers that we had slept together and somehow that ended up reflecting poorly on me. 2. Sex was phenomenal. But the morning after she breaks down crying that she still loves her boyfriend and shouldn't have done last night. First I've heard of this boyfriend. Unfortunately I was trapped at the house because my buddy was my ride and he was still in bed with her roommate. I got to spend my hangover consoling the girl I had just slept with for sleeping with me. I probably should have bitten the bullet and just grabbed a $60 taxi. 3. While still in high school, 18, and using a fake kid to get into bars, I went home with the high school cheerleading coach. Definitely the most awkward morning after I've ever had. On the bright side, she gave me a ride home. I probably have more bad one night stands, but these are off the top of my head while slacking at work. About 5 minutes into the deed, he starts saying, "I love you, I love you." As if that wasn't bad enough. The next morning I found the condom on the floor. There was no spunk inside. Had to go get the morning after pill and a full STI testing. I've had that happen once. Seriously didn't do more than get naked and hop on top and he was gushing with love. After, he asked me if I'd heard him. I just said hum and got up and told him I wasn't what he was looking for. Poor guy. Met this girl through a customer of mine. She needed my services as well, and after I diaged her vehicle she kept sending flirty texts. Ended up going over there one night, was having stomach issues before, so I drank almost an entire bottle of Mylanta. I came to find out this gives you the runs. Non-stop. Pee out of my butt 5 times before going over there. Thought I was done. Got over there and she wanted to drink. Frickin' A. Drank some whiskey and ended up in bed with her, clenching my cheeks shut the whole time. The bathroom was directly across the hall from her bedroom, so there's no way I could do what I needed to do, especially considering it would be louder than heck. We started making out. She goes down to give me head and I'm trying so hard not to squirt diarrhea all over her bed that I couldn't enjoy it. I wanted to come back though, so I pretended I was. Went to try and have sex with her, and the movements plus my increasing by the second need to let loose. I just couldn't do it. She eventually just fell asleep after I stopped. Then I bolted out the door and drove to the gas station, wrapping the seatbelt around my lap and butt so I wouldn't crap myself. Ran into the gas station bathroom and got my pants not even half down before I started squirting horrible diarrhea all into the toilet. Never talked to her again. All in all, I figure I came out ahead because I got some domestical, a little unsatisfying vagina, and I didn't crap myself for her bed. That went much better than I thought it was going to. I was expecting it to end with her getting a crap facial or something. Well, on my 23rd birthday I had a fun encounter. I started my adventure at a local bar getting nice and drunk. The drinking hole was really busy on this particular evening and I managed to lose track of the friends I had arrived with. So last call rolled around and I couldn't see any of them. So I decided to see if I could find any new friends that would want to keep the party going. I saw this couple across the street stumbling about and laughing. This was exactly what I was looking for. I made my way over after retrieving some beer I had hidden in a nearby bush earlier on. I offered them beer, which they gladly accepted, and we decided to plan our next move. After much deliberation, we came to the idea that we should just call a cab and wing it. So the cab arrived and I decided it was time for action. At this point I had deduced that these two were not romantically involved. Not yet anyways. So I made the call to jump in the cab, allowed the guy to hop in and shuffle down the backseat before shutting the door. I suggested to the female that we just let him go. She smiled and nodded, so I tossed $40 on the driver's lap and told him to take his passenger wherever he wanted. So after the cab left, we walked up the street laughing and getting along fine when we decided it was go time. Here and now, we found ourselves over at this rock retaining wall having sex in plain view of any car that was driving by at the time. We wrapped that up and continued down the road. It was around this time that it started to rain. We still had nowhere to go, so I decided that we should take shelter by the local public pool. The building we had chosen was surrounded by a 7-foot high fence. Me being the ever the gentleman, I decided it was right to boost my partner in crime over. I got my hands under one of her feet and unfortunately gave it too much mustard. She popped up over the fence, coming around 1.5 rotations only to smash her face on the stone ground on the other side. I panicked, scrambled over and made to open the door to shelter. The door was locked, so I kicked in the deadbolt and helped her inside. She was bleeding pretty badly and I imagine her nose may have been busted. I grabbed her some nearby paper towels and cracked a beer. She calmed down pretty quickly and the idea that we might have sex again arose. So after having sex again and being bled on, we heard a knock at the door. I called out for the stranger to enter and immediately regretted it, as the first thing I saw was a flashlight. It was the police, and upon seeing the two of us thought that I had intentionally battered my new friend. So after a very tense 15 or 20 minutes, she had successfully defused the situation. After that, I was arrested for trespassing, mischief, and destruction of property. The sex was great though. TLDR. Met a girl, had sex, threw her over a fence and onto her face, had more sex, this time with blood, got arrested. Out for drinks with co-workers when we bump into girl I know from high school. I know her and co-worker knows her roommate, so it was unavoidable. We all end up at the girl's house and I proceed to get very drunk. Wake up the next morning and put on my clothes that were next to the bed. I notice that my clothes feel damp, but also notice a knocked over glass that I assume had water in it. Go outside and sit in her car for the ride of shame back to my car. In the 100-degree heat, it becomes apparent that it was not water on my clothes. Apparently, her cat did not approve and spent the night pee all over my clothes. She thought it was funny. I did not. Not me, but my best friend brought a girl home, took her to his room and walked out 15 minutes later asking if I had a condom. He was wearing Red Wings on his cheeks. I didn't tell him. Took me a second. Then I started to piece it together like an Illuminati theorist. We have cheeks on our butts and on our faces. With sex, it could be either. Red Wings are a hockey team. Hockey is divided into 3 periods. Periods, cheeks, face, not butt. Oh god no. 2 of them was 16 years old, hooked up with the younger and better looking sister of someone I previously dated. We were at a party, snuck off into the host's bedroom. We start getting busy. I take my pants off and she looks at me and says, "That's it? I heard you were bigger." She proceeds to lay there through the whole experience, clearly faking it. I don't even recall whether or not I finished. Neither of us enjoyed ourselves. Was friends, not FWB, with incredibly hot blonde, known to love casual sex. We're at my place and she mentions how she hasn't gotten laid in a while. I half jokingly say something along the lines of "I'm available." To my surprise, she actually takes me up on the offer. Worst experience ever. Some people just aren't sexually compatible. We were 2 of those people. Everything I tried did absolutely nothing for her, and vice versa. At various points, we both performed oral sex on each other, hoping to get some kind of spark going, but it just wasn't working for whatever reason. It was all just meh. She stops me in the middle of going down on her, and at this point even I'm just going through the motions after getting the worst BJ ever, and says, you know, this just isn't working. I was never so happy to not get laid in my life. I actually think if we'd have gone through with the act, our friendship would have been ruined. We're still friends 20 plus years later, and we're both very happy just pretending the whole incident never happened. I think it's pretty cool you're still friends. I imagine most people would be so awkward after that and stop talking. Once I rolled over too much in bed and fell out. As I was falling out, I hit my head on the partially open drawer of my only bedside table. I had to explain to everyone in church the next day that I got my black eye from my one night stand. They weren't impressed. So what you're saying is you banged your nightstand? It's actually a funny story as well. So, me and my good friend from high school meet this girl, roughly around the age of 35 in a bar in Dallas. The night begins to escalate. We see where this is headed. Me and my buddy are stubborn, so all three of us decide to take an Uber back to her house, which was only about 2 miles away. We approach her condo. It was the 4th floor to be exact. She goes into her room, and now it's up to me and my buddy to decide who's going to handle business. Me and my buddy decide the only way logical to decide this is to flip a coin. It is mid-January, so it is freezing out on the balcony. While the coin is in mid-air, I pull a quick one and run into her room, basically screwing my friend over. I felt no remorse, but looking back, we both never should have been there. Long story short, my buddy falls asleep on her couch while I'm in there taking care of business. After she's been taken care of, me and her fall asleep. This is roughly around 2:45. At 5:15, I wake up to the sound of her bawling and speaking to her dad on the phone about how horrible of a person she is. At this point, she is in the living room pacing back and forth while I'm in her bedroom. I can hear all of this and all I can think about is my buddy is out there more than likely faking that he is still asleep. 5 minutes go by. She is still bawling to her dad, but the sound fades away into another room. My buddy runs into my room, grabs me and says we need to leave now. I don't hesitate. We got out of there as quick as we could. Now here's the worst part. Both of our phones were dead, so we couldn't call a Uber or any form of ride to transport us back to our car. We are in jeans and a shirt and had to walk 2 miles to our back in below freezing weather. The night was such a horrible turnout. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.